Hello, in this video I'm going to solve a problem for you on the topic of trigonometric identities. Let us read the problem together first. Prove the following identity. Cotangent x squared times secant x minus 1 over sine x plus 1 plus secant x squared times sine x minus 1 over secant x plus 1 equals to 0. Might be you are not very familiar with the notion of cotangent of an angle and secant of an angle. These are defined here. Cotangent x is actually the reciprocal of the tangent. Tangent of an angle is sine of the angle divided by cosine of the angle, but cotangent is the cosine of the angle divided by the sine of that angle. And secant x is defined to be 1 over cosine x. In other words, secant x is the reciprocal of cosine x. That would be a good idea if you actually pause the video at this point and try to solve the problem yourself first. Okay, now let us go to the board and solve the problem. So this is the identity that I am supposed to prove. Okay, I start from the left-hand side and try to simplify this expression so that I reach to the right-hand side. So let me write the left-hand side equals to. Might be the natural point to start is to write the definitions of cotangent and secant. So cotangent is nothing, according to my definition, is cosine x divided by sine x, and then to power 2, and then times secant x by definition is 1 over cosine x minus 1, and then I have sine x plus 1. And here, again, secant means 1 over cosine x, but I have secant x squared, so this becomes the whole expression here to the power of 2, multiplied by, here I have sine x minus 1. Here, the definition of secant I use, I will get this. So, this is, again, the left-hand side, but expanded a little bit. Okay, what can I do now? This fraction to power 2 becomes the numerator to power 2 divided by its denominator to power 2 multiplied. So if you don't mind, let me just copy and paste this part. I don't need to do changes right away here. And I will do the same thing here. So this fraction to power 2 becomes the numerator to power 2, which is 1. This denominator is cosine x squared. And I, again, copy and paste this part. Sine x minus 1 over 1 cosine x plus 1. Okay, so hopefully now you are not getting confused. Here, if you see, this product is between these two big fractions, this fraction here and that fraction. The numerator of this fraction is cosine x squared, the denominator is sine x squared, but if I ask you what is the numerator of this fraction, another fraction is involved in the numerator of the second fraction. So, but the rules are the same. So if I want to multiply this fraction by that fraction, the rule is to multiply the numerator of this fraction by the numerator of that fraction, and the denominator is the same. The same story for the second product. Okay, so I will just do that. So let me just be patient and write everything in detail. So this becomes the numerator of here multiplied by the whole numerator there divided by the denominator here multiplied by the whole denominator there. And the same story here. So plus the numerator here is 1 multiplied by the numerator here, so nothing will change. I have to write the second numerator here. But the denominator here, cosine x squared, multiplied by the whole denominator here. Okay? Now here, do not look at the denominator for the time being. This is a term, and then I have the difference of two terms. I'm supposed to multiply this. So this will be multiplied to the first term, minus this will be multiplied to the second term. But when I multiply this by the first term, there is a cosine in the denominator here, which will cancel one of these cosines, and there is one cosine left that will be multiplied to the numerator. So this becomes equal to, so let me just do it. Multiply this by that. It gives me one cosine x left. This one multiplied by that minus cosine x squared. The denominator, let me write it in this factorized form. Don't be in a hurry to multiply things, because at the end might be I need to take the common denominator. So then I have to factorize it again if I had already expanded that. So I just keep it like this. And then I copy and paste the numerator of the second one, which I cannot simplify more. But here, I just multiply this here, the same story. I have to multiply this here. One cosine and one cosine is canceled. So I am left with one cosine. And then cosine x squared multiplied by plus 1 becomes cosine x squared. Okay? Now, we want to see if we can simplify this a little bit further. Okay, so how can I do that? At the end, I have to probably take the common denominator, but to take the common denominator, I have to factorize the denominators. This is already in the factorized form because as you see, that's a product, but this is not in factorized form. I can factor a cosine x out, okay? So here, if you have a little bit of experience, you might see that it is also useful to take a cosine x out, even though this is not the usual way to do it. Because usually, when I want to add fractions, I just focus on factorizing the denominators. Yes, I will not actually factorize the numerators. But because I know that in the future this will be multiplied here, I can do that. So I would write this as cosine x, 1 minus cosine x. In the denominator, I copy and paste this one. But here, the numerator, I copy and paste. The denominator, I factor it out. Yes? And now I take the common denominator. So the common denominator is the product of these four factors. I cannot write it simpler than that because I have to have the least common multiple of both denominators. Okay? But this common denominator, if you divide this by that, this is gone, this is left, so this should be multiplied into the corresponding numerator. So if you multiply this by that, there is a cosine x here, so this becomes cosine x to power 2. There is 1 plus cosine x here, 1 minus cosine x here, so you have to multiply them, but you know that's a conjugate identity. So this becomes the first one squared, which is 1, minus the second one squared, which is cosine x squared. So that was my common denominator. I divide the common denominator to the denominator of the first one. This part is gone. This is left. I have to take this one and multiply it by the corresponding numerator. But when I want to multiply this by the corresponding numerator, I have a factor of cosine x, which will be multiplied by this cosine x. It will be cosine x squared. And then there will be a factor of 1 plus cosine x, which will be multiplied here, which is coincidentally the factor of 1 minus cosine x, which makes a conjugate pattern for me. And the answer will be the first one squared minus the second one squared. Okay, I will do the same thing here. Now there is addition, and then I will take the common denominator, divide it in my head by that one. These two factors are gone. These two factors are left. I multiply this in the numerator there. So sine x squared is alone, so I just write it down. but then this one should be multiplied here, but again you see that this is a conjugate rule. So the answer of this multiplied by that is the first one squared minus the second one squared. Okay, then I have to start simplifying this. What should I do? I can actually multiply that, but there is a better way than multiplying, because 1 minus cosine x squared is famous, yes? So we know that. Let me write it here. So sine x squared plus cosine x squared is 1. So if I ask you what is another name for 1 minus cosine x squared, you will tell me sine x squared. So this is nothing except sine x squared, so this becomes sine x squared cosine x squared. But if I ask you the same question here, this is not exactly the right combination I need, because if I move this to the other side, so cosine x squared becomes 1 minus sine x squared. But what appears here is not exactly this combination, is this combination flipped. So I multiply this by minus sign, it becomes minus cosine x squared, then this becomes positive sine x squared minus 1. So this combination that you see appears there is nothing except minus cosine x squared. So this expression is minus cosine x squared that I multiplied by positive sine x squared. It becomes negative sine x squared cosine x squared. And the denominator is the same. So if you don't mind, let us just write this for copy and pasting the denominator. Because you see that sine x squared cosine x squared minus the same thing is 0. So I get a fraction whose numerator is 0 and the denominator is whatever it is. So if I have a fraction of that kind, then this fraction becomes 0. And that is exactly equal to the right-hand side. Yes? Okay, so I hope that this video is useful for you. Until the next video, be safe and goodbye. Thank you.